The conclusion of the Future Trunks story arc has finally arrived, with Zamasu meeting his ultimate fate by the hands of Trunks, as we draw a conclusion in the Future Trunks story arc as we bear witness to Trunks finally having to be the hero and cutting Zamasu in half with his newly found spirit sword that he had created via absorbing the Genki Dama, the spirit bomb-like attack, and manipulating its ki into the form of a sword. But even while Trunks cuts Zamasu in pieces, is he gone forever? What's going on, Dragon Ball Super fans? Welcome to my Dragon Ball Super episode 67 review and breakdown entitled Fill Your Heart with New Hope, Farewell Trunks, leading into next week's exciting episode of Dragon Ball Super episode 68 in what is the conclusion of the arc. Now, having to come back with you guys here from last week, a lot of you guys were really pissed off on the idea that they've pretty much wasted Fusion, they've wasted Kaioken, they've wasted the Spirit Bomb attack. In last week's episode, there was so many people that were pissed off. A lot of people were happy at the idea that there's finally a new hero aside from Goku, that being Trunks, and Trunks having to be the hero of his own story, which again is pretty cool. But in this particular episode, we see the conclusion and the closing of the story with lots of awesome details, I would have to say, and a few things that I think would point out and lead us to the next arc, which again is very vital, especially coming off of the news that we've gotten with Hit returning and stuff. So again, guys, keep in mind this video will contain massive amounts of spoilers, so in case you guys are new to the channel and you don't want to have anything spoiled for you, go to crunchyroll.com, watch the episode, and come back down here so we can talk more Dragon Ball Super down in the comments. Now, the way we started off this episode, guys, I think was very, very good, with Zamasu having like this evil laugh and him pretty much knowing that he'll still be alive. But what happened after, I think, was a little corny and essentially very cheesy, because right after we see Goku come by and he begins to congratulate Trunks on killing off Zamasu, on how Mai even showed up and she was like, thank you so much for defending us, we see how all of a sudden there's like this rift that opens up, and all of a sudden we see like this black smoke in the sky, and as this black smoke begins to envelop the entire planet, we see Zamasu's head. But then we see a bunch of Zamasu heads. It's like we see the face of Zamasu all over. So we see like this giant Zamasu barrier fog begin to envelop the entire planet, and we see how Goku and everyone else was very nervous because they thought that they have killed Zamasu, but in fact he was not dead, he's still alive. And we see how Goku tries to become a Super Saiyan Blue and it failed. Vegeta tried to become a Super Saiyan Blue and that failed. So Goku and Vegeta were not able to become Super Saiyan Blues, which ultimately enough led them to being screwed, because how else can you defend yourself if you don't transform? And Trunks was able to become a Super Saiyan, and they tried to attack the giant Zamasu fog sky thingy like up in the air, and it didn't work. And then Goku unleashed his Kamehameha wave, Trunks unleashed the Gallic Gun, and Vegeta unleashed the Final Flash, all in one. So we have three very beastly ass attacks being merged together, just striking the sky, and it did nothing. It was peanuts. And we see how Goku was just like, well, shit, what do we do? And then the sky begins to attack the ground. So we see how like all of these Zamasu heads begin to open up their mouth, and they begin to strike down, you know, the earth. We see how these giant blasts are beginning to blow stuff up. And again, I thought it was very stupid to see this. Some of you guys may have thought, oh, that was pretty cool, but I just think having a bunch of Zamasu heads in the sky was just really meaningless. But even as meaningless as it was, we see how Zamasu begins to attack the ground, and we see how everyone else begins to panic. Kaioshin and Gowasu begin to have like a barrier. They formulate a barrier to protect them, and essentially, I mean, there was nothing left to do. I mean, you can't really attack someone who's literally engulfing the entire sky. So then we see how Zamasu managed to make his way in the past as well. We see how his entire face is you know, being shown in the past. And Whis is beginning to, over on Beerus' planet, Whis is beginning to kind of like, you know, rub his face, and he's just like, what's going on? Like, I'm sensing something. And Beerus begins to also sense that whatever is happening in the future timeline is beginning to affect the past as well. So Beerus is not a happy camper, because he's saying to himself like, hey, so what the hell's going on in the future? Like, why is this beginning to affect us? So we don't know why. And again, they never really explained as to like what the heck was Zamasu was doing in the past, in the future. And then we see how he envelops the entire earth, and the earth turns into Zamasu's head, and that was so stupid. But Goku says to everyone, hey, so, you know, does the Omni King still exist in the future? And Gowasu says yes. So Goku says, maybe if I press the button and the Omni King shows up, maybe he can help us. So Goku presses the button, and finally the Omni King shows up. So Zenchan shows up, and Goku begins to hug him, and he's like, thank you that you're here. And the Omni King from the future does not know of Goku. So the Omni King is just like, what the hell am I doing here, and who the hell are you? And Goku's like, hey, so we have this problem with Zamasu. And the Omni King's like, did you do this? And because if you did, this entire world is fucked. So Goku's like, no, it wasn't me. It was the guy up in the sky. And we see how the Omni King's like, this world will disappear. And right then and there, everyone else was like, shit, we gotta get the hell out of here because this dude is planning on erasing the entire timeline here. So we see how everyone quickly jumps in and they flee. And again, I thought the concept of how they went about this was very intriguing as well, because they not only managed to take the Omni King with them after the timeline got erased, but what happened after was really funny and yet weird at the same time. Because we get to see the past Omni King meet the future Omni King, and it's just like, what? How did that happen? But we see how Zeno raises his hands, and poof, there goes everything. And once they go back into the past, Goku seeks to go speak to present Omni King, in which case they go, and we finally learn something. We learn that the Grand Priest is the brother of Whis. So Whis has a brother, and that's the Daishinkai. That's his little brother. That's his little brother, mind you. But even though that's his little brother, the Daishinkai is stronger than Whis, and that's something we've never learned before. So in case you guys are wondering on how strong the Grand Priest is, he's stronger than his brother and his sister Vados. So Vados is related to Whis, and so is the Grand Priest. So it looks like they're all family. And then later on, we see how Beerus shows up, and Beerus begins to tell everyone, so it looks like you guys had a rough time kind of poking shots at Goku and Vegeta and stuff like that. And we see how, ultimately enough, you know, Beerus explains, and Whis also explains, that they have created, due to Beerus killing off Zamasu, they have created an alternate timeline. They have created an alternate world, more than fitting for someone like Trunks to go back and live upon. So that means that the world that the Omni King, the future Omni King, had destroyed, even though it's gone and over with, there's another timeline that Trunks can go to that can also support, you know, him and just whatever he wants to do. Very similar to the future, I suppose. I don't know. The whole timeline paradox and alternate worlds and stuff is beginning to get a little out of hand. But nevertheless, Beerus said there's a new timeline, there's a new world, there's a new ring that was created, and maybe you can go back there, which I don't really have a problem with, because later on Trunks says, I'll see you guys again someday. So I don't think that this is going to be the end of future Trunks per se. I think that according to what he said, maybe, and I mean like huge maybe, we might see him again down the line. But in terms of like what was shown with Zenchan having to have the best friend be himself, like Goku introduced future Omni King to past Omni King, so now we have two Omni Kings. It's like, what in the world is going on here? I'm gonna miss this arc so much because of the way, you know, everything was portrayed, the desperation factor, the dire situation that Trunks was in, and you know, it's just the whole factor of time travel now is completely merped according to this episode. But if we've learned something new, that was that, you know, the Omni King has a new playmate, and that being himself. So how crazy is that going to be? Little Omni King teaming up with the other little Omni King. If one person gets the other person pissed off, God help us all, because it only takes one Omni King to like wipe out an entire, you know, universe. So imagine if one of them just gets like irritated. Oh my goodness. So we have two Omni Kings now in one timeline, and that is just like, what the fuck? So like, it's just like, how is that even, like, whatever. But now we go into the next episode, that being Shenron having to come about for a wish to be granted. Now, again, I think that the next episode is going to be that of a more settling episode for us to dive into. And of course, the episode is called Come Forth Shenlong, whose wish shall be granted. So Shenron will be appearing, and he'll be making a wish. But again, the way Trunks said goodbye was, you know, we'll meet again someday. It was very touching to see him go, but he goes. And Bulma made a few comments about, you know, Mai and him bringing back grandchildren, all that kind of stuff. Again, the subtext will be out on Crunchyroll, guys. You guys can go ahead and watch it there. But going into next week's episode, we get to see how in the preview, you know, Shenron is there, and there's a wish that's going to be made. And of course, later on after that, due to the episode spoilers, we're going to have Champa come by to play baseball with Yamcha. Like, how bizarre is that? But all in all, guys, the arc is finally over. The story of future Trunks, Goku Black, Zamasu, it's all over. And Gowasu even took responsibility in this episode. He says that, you know, well, he puts the time rings away, and he feels as if this is his fault for bringing Zamasu about as a disciple, and he vows never to do that again. And Beerus is like, well, you ought to pick better disciples next time and stuff. But I want to touch up on the little details per se. Now again, we see how the figureheads in the sky, it was all a bunch of Zamasus trolling us. I think that was very dumb. There were certain bits and pieces of the animation in the beginning that was a little murpy-derpy. I'm not going to say that the animation was flawless in the entire episode, because in the beginning, it was just a little murpy-derpy. There was one scene in particular where Trunks' face looked like Johnny Bravo. He had like a giant crimson chin and stuff. It was just really stupid. But like overall, the music was fitting. We see how the tone definitely had decreased since last week because of the idea that Zamasu is now gone. So now we have, you know, the story coming to an end, and now we're moving on to the, you know, the next arc, which is going to be involving Hit coming back to make an assassination attempt on Goku, which is going to be really awesome to see, mind you. But even though with that being said and done, we see how Zenchan is now in the past as well. So now there's two Zenchans. So like, how is this even going to like work itself out? Like, who is going to be the true ruler? I mean, are they going to split it 50-50? Like how are you going to go about this is my question. Having two Omni Kings in one universe just seems very, very confusing in a way. But nevertheless, it's kind of adorable seeing how these two are going to be interacting with each other. But nevertheless, the future Omni King never knew about Goku, so that's why he was just like, what? So maybe now Goku's not going to be so favored by the future Omni King, because even though the past Omni King knows about him, the future Omni King may oppose of that. So the Omni King wiped out the timeline. There's a new timeline being formed. The Grand Priest is Whis' brother. Really cool stuff that we've learned here. Now, going into next week's episode, guys, again, I'll explain more of that and share my thoughts in my prediction video. But leave your thoughts down below, guys. What did you guys think about this? I mean, in terms of like breaking all of it down, it makes sense for Zamasu's immortality to still exist in the sky and stuff, although I would have preferred for him to come back in the flesh. I don't see how one spirit sword was able to completely destroy him like that. I feel as if they should have brought him back in some way, shape, or form to have one last hurrah before the Omni King showed up. But the Omni King has so much power that he was able to destroy that of an immortal. So I guess to a certain extent it seemed to be more than fitting. But all in all, I just think that the utilization of Omni King having another friend and that being him is kind of like, again, it's wacky. A lot of you guys may say that the episode may have sucked, or maybe your opinions may differ. But I just think that the utilization of Trunks leaving and saying I'll see you again soon kind of gives me hope, because it's just like, all right, well, he's not going away permanently now, but we may see him down the line. But I'm just a little curious as to how the whole Omni King thing is going to be working out, and also about the whole situation of like the wish being made. And also, in case you guys were watching this on streams, the streams went down a lot today, so in case you guys are wondering where to watch the episode, go to crunchyroll.com. It's the legal way to do so, so you guys can go ahead and watch the episode there. When it airs in about an hour with the subs, I'm going to go ahead and rewatch it again, and hopefully enough, I'll have myself a live stream tonight so we can all talk about Dragon Ball Super in the comments. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below about the Omni King having another friend, that being him, and Trunks going away and stuff like that. Like, what are your overall thoughts as to what happened? But in conclusion, guys, let me know what you all think down in the comment section below and pertains to the episode. Did you guys like the episode? Did you guys hate the episode? What are your thoughts on the animation and the score? Comment down below, guys. Thank you all for watching. As always, I hope you all have a blessed weekend. If you guys are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell icon to always stay in tune with daily uploads. And of course, if you guys love Dragon Ball in general, make sure to slap a like on this video. Tune in for more, and I'll be seeing you all in the next video. Take it easy, guys. Peace.